Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Thank you. Well, good evening and welcome to this People Series event sponsored by the Center for Business GIS and Spatial Analysis and the School of Business at the University of Maryland. First and foremost, I want to thank each and everyone for being here tonight, despite all the weather. Our speaker is our guest from Atlanta, Georgia, and I hope that we can give him better weather starting tomorrow. My name is Abhijit Sarkar. I'm a faculty member at the School of Business and presently director for the Center of Business GIS and Spatial Analysis. I want to take a very brief moment to introduce the center to you. The center was founded within the School of Business in the summer of 2011. It seeks to stimulate, support, and integrate GIS throughout the School of Business programs and expand research and scholarship in GIS and spatial analysis among the faculty. First, I want to again take a moment to extend a sincere warm greetings to all of you for attending tonight. It is my pleasure to welcome several of my colleagues in the faculty, colleagues from the administration staff, colleagues from the University Center for Spatial Studies, members of the extended community, and last but not least, heartwarming to see so many students in the audience tonight. We have students from the School of Business who are presently in the GIS for Business course in the undergraduate program, presently being taught by my colleague, Dr. Richard Green. We have prospective business majors from the College of Arts and Sciences in Dr. Randolph's class. We have students who are currently in Dr. Stephen Moore's course, and possibly students from these two other classes also in the College of Arts and Sciences. For all of you, I extend a very warm greeting and a welcome, and I trust that you will have an enriching experience on a topic of great interest in our community. I would want to take a quick moment to introduce the University's Director of Spatial Studies, Dr. Stephen Moore, in case you don't know him, right here. Before I introduce our speaker, I really want to acknowledge and thank two of my colleagues, Ms. Karen Crawford, who's back there. She's a project specialist in the School of Business. She's waving to all of us. She's working on multiple different things, but also is our lead host, if you may, for all these speaker events. Karen, I owe a ton of thanks for planning everything to successfully execute these speaker events. Ms. Leslie Fountain, there she is. She is an MBA student and graduate research assistant for the Center for Business GIS and Spatial Analysis, and she helps incredibly on all aspects of the center and its operations. I'd like to acknowledge colleagues and thank them from the University's Information Technology Services, especially Stephen and Paul Lopez, for the continued support of our technology requirements. And sincere thanks are also due to the wonderful folks at Bon Appetit and also colleagues in the faculty club for hosting us. Last but not least, I would really want to acknowledge and thank one of my colleagues from Esri. His name is Dr. David DiBiase, who is Esri's Director of Higher Education. David has been a great friend for some of us at the university for a number of years. And one of the reasons I especially want to acknowledge and thank him tonight is it was David who helped me and my colleagues in the school connect with our speaker last year. Mansour Rod, who is here tonight, and Mansour knows that I've been after his life. And he was keynoter at a workshop at a professional conference last August, and I've been bugging him ever since, even though he's at Esri's Atlanta office to come and speak. But I want to go back to David and acknowledge and thank him for making all of these connections over the years. So without further ado at this time, I'd like to introduce our truly distinguished speaker, Mansour Rod. Mansour is Senior Software Engineer and the Big Data Advocate at Esri. As part of Esri's development team, Mansour helps users implement big data solutions with our GIS server. He has over 25 years of experience in the information technology and GIS fields. Mansour is also Cloudera Certificate Hadoop Developer and age-based specialist. I know that sounds esoteric. I know that sounds eclectic, but I tell you what, that Mansour has this unique ability to break things down so that it's palatable for folks who are unfamiliar with technology or some startups. His command of GIS technologies, of course, is second to none. He has designed and implemented next-generation big data geospatial solutions, some of which he's going to share with us tonight. Mansour holds a master's degree in aerospace engineering from Boston University, and is really an avid blogger on big data topics and examples of spatial big data implementations. Mansour is in town here in Redlands in connection to Esri's annual developer summit. It starts tomorrow, I believe, in Palm Springs, and has been extremely kind to take me up on my invitation and really share his passion and expertise with us tonight. So with that, please join me in extending a warm welcome to Mansour.
This room, you guys are the smartest people because you have so many places you can be at, and you guys decided to be here, so you guys are very smart. And thank you for that. So my name is Mansour. I'm a senior software architect. I'm a big data advocate. An advocate is a bit better than an evangelist because I go out to the world where evangelism gets your head cut off. So I like it, despite I don't have a lot of hair on my head, but I like it. I like to keep it on my shoulders. So advocate is a little bit better than evangelist. That's what I basically do. I belong to professional services at PSY. I've been with PSY now for 20 years. And I've been, for the last 4 years, I've been going around the world implementing big data solutions. And so what I want to share with you here is some of these ideas that I've been doing and tell you where things have been going. So again, you can follow me on my blog at Founded Explorer. So every day I have to wake up in the morning and just go to Founded Explorer, find out what most people are working on. If I got a lot of stuff like that on there. Don't hesitate to email me at mrod@psy.com. Depending on where I'm in the world, I usually answer fairly quickly. It takes me about a day. And then you can follow me on Twitter if you like. I tweet some pretty cool stuff, not like I'm sitting on my back eating peanut butter jelly sandwich or something like that. So if you want to find out some cool stuff that I've been thinking about or talking about, then you can. So I love this sentence, everybody. I think I know it's kind of oxymoronic, but it kind of makes sense actually. I think where is ubiquitous? It's kind of very interesting because literally you go around and you ask a lot of these questions, right? You say, where's my closest ATM that I built? Actually, the first application that I built about 97 was actually an ATM locator. I know today it's like, that does not make sense to me locating an ATM. But back in '97, when I built the ATM locator for Visa on the internet, it was amazing that you can find the 3 closest ATMs where you are. I know we take it for granted right now, but that's pretty cool that you could do that. And then, where's the best place to place my store? I mean, we at TSI work, for example, with the United States Postal Office. One of the things that we do is we do facility location. Where should the USPS put their offices? Or where is Starbucks? Actually, Starbucks is one of our customers. Where should I open up a Starbucks? I know there's a Starbucks on every corner, but actually, they don't just go around and throw a Starbucks around the corner. They actually do it using geospatial and geostatistics and demographics demographic is very important. So where should I place my Starbucks is an important question. And of course, for the last 10 years, not anymore now. Where's UBL? You know, that's Osama bin Laden. Where's UBL? I mean, that was everybody was asking, where's UBL? Where's UBL? Where's UBL? And then they finally got him. And the last one actually, which is very much today, is which is, you know, where's the next Ebola outbreak going to happen? Okay, what is the statistically significant trends that are happening? Or where's the Zika virus right now is going to be trending? These are very important questions, and the first thing to start out with is always where. And I think that's why you guys are all studying where geospatial and all that stuff is happening. And so let me give you a little bit of history, you know, at least from a right perspective, where things have been going and where things have been happening. And so back in the 1990s, I know some of you were not even born, maybe 2 years old or something. I'm just kidding. Okay, but yes, it's true. Okay. So back in the 90s, there was a lot of ubiquitous format to exchange data, but then there was this format called shapefiles. Anybody fooled around with shapefiles? You know what shapefiles are? Yeah. Well, this is actually the most ubiquitous way where you can download shapefile formats. So when you go to SGS or USDA, or you want to exchange files with everybody, typically it's shapefiles. They give you shapefiles right now. It's not the most efficient format, but actually can contain geospatial data, and you can set attribute to it, and you can share it, and it's all on disk space, and it's pretty good. It's pretty ubiquitous. Then back in '95, what happened is relational databases start to take a lot of advantage of things. And then we at Geospatial ended up saying, you know what we need is we need the middle tier to do things with relational databases. And so what we ended up storing is we ended up storing latitude and longitude down in the databases. But the problem was we could never consume them on top in the desktop or on the consumer side. So what we did at Geospatial, we introduced a layer in the middle called the Spatial Data Engine. Okay, so some of you that were around here called SDE. And SDE, what it enables us to do, it enables us to bridge the gap between the desktop applications and the relational databases. So suddenly, the problem was with shapefiles were very small. You could not hold a lot of information, like only like maybe 600,000 records or something like that. But these relational databases could hold a lot more than that. And they were way faster to hold things, and a lot of companies used to have them. So the fact that you can put geospatial and then using SDE can bridge to that, that was amazing stuff that we can do. And so that really opened up a lot of kind of the starting of the big data things, okay, how we can access data is because of that gap in there. Then about 2000, between 96 and 2005, the relational database vendors start getting a whiff of this. Says, you know what? Why are we having this middle tier in here? What we like to do is we like to bring in the geospatial component into our databases. So now today, if you look at the Oracles, the SQL servers, and the Postgres and stuff like that, all of them now have built into them geospatial capabilities because where it's so ubiquitous and everybody wanted to do where things. So instead of introducing this layer in the middle, what they said to do, you know what? Why don't we bring the computing closer to the engine itself? And in the engine itself, we can start doing, you know, find me things near, or find me things that are intersecting, or find me things that are crossing right in there. And that opened up a lot of things in there, and that was pretty good. And that lasted for a while. And why all this happens is because something we call spatial indexing. Spatial indexing is a very interesting way of doing things. And what it does, it breaks up the space into smaller little quads. Okay? So you take your whole space of area, and what you do is you break it up into little areas in here, little quads. And those quads, one of the ways of decoding that is something called a quad tree. And what it enables us to do now is to take these little quads and put them on databases or on pages in the database in such a way that we can quickly locate things very efficiently in there. And so that is one way of doing that. And a lot of database vendors do support quad indexing to do geospatial in there. Of course, there's more efficient ways to do that, like for example, called an R tree. And if you go down in the literature, you go down to it, there's so many ways to do that. There's the quad trees, the R trees, and all of these guys started building these kind of things capability in them. And that was very, very exciting. That opened up a whole new way of dealing with data and bigger data if we want to deal with that. So then about 5 years ago when I lived in Massachusetts, there was this guy at MIT called me up and says, you know, Mansour, there's this company called Yahoo, you know, right? and it's doing some really amazing stuff with this animal called Hadoop. You need to come down and check it out in our lab. So I went down to MIT and I talked to him, and he's like, you know what? We're doing some really amazing stuff with this Hadoop things. So I was like, that's very interesting. So let me tell you a story. So if you cannot tell from my accent, I'm Lebanese, and to stay with the tradition of my ancestors, the Phoenicians, by the way, we invented the alphabet, actually they propagated the alphabet, and we're very good storytellers. I'm going to tell you a story. Come on, this is funny, come on. It's not that late, So, I was given 300 million US demographic data. And that is basically gender, age, race, income, all kind of stuff like that you typically get from United States Census Bureau. All the stuff is, tax dollars paid for that. Okay? And then I was given a bunch of stores all over the United States. Actually, this is little stores. I was given about 1,000 stores to do analysis on all that. So I have 300 million records by 1,000 records that I need to do the following. For each location, for each demographic, I need to compute something called a 10-mile heat map. And a heat map is something like that. A heat map is actually takes a location and tells me where statistically significant are the areas of interest. So I can look at this map and I can tell you, like, I can look at the southeast here, from you guys, okay? If I look at the southeast, there's a statistically significant area for a particular store, that it could be income, stuff like that. And so typically what marketers do for something like that is what they do is they say, oh, okay, you know what? These are the areas where I need to do mailers or stuff like that. So when you receive a mailer in the mail, by the way, for some advertisements and stuff like that, it's not because somebody just broadcast it out to all of you guys. Somebody did spatial analytics, by the way, to send out that information. And we don't just send them down just for the sake of sending them down. We're sending them down with statistically significant scenario. We know that some areas are more statistically significant than others. And that's what we call geostatistics, by the way. Okay? So we plug geo and statistics together to give us really inside information. Because I'm not going to send out information up to the north, because guess what? It's not statistically significant. Why am I wasting my money up there? I should be sending it down there. That's what makes it so exciting. So in traditional means, ladies and gentlemen, this process of taking 300 million records by their 6-7 attributes and spatially joining them with 1,000 polygon, with 1,000 point location, was going to take 14 days to run. Okay? It's going to take 14 days to run, and it's going to generate about 600 gigabytes of space. Now, I was using Python to do that. You're all familiar with the language Python? Okay, Python, that's why the Python here is crossing his eyes, because it's like, it's going to die. It's actually not dying, but he's like, I cannot handle this. Okay? And it's kind of fun. Yes, I know. Or it's me. I think it's me. So, is there a better way to do this? Is there a better way to do this? So, remember my friend that told me about this Hadoop animal, So Hadoop is this Apache project that has been sitting around and it's been developed by Yahoo. And Yahoo, when you do your searches on Yahoo back then, about 5 years ago, they were all running through this animal called Hadoop. Right? And so I wanted to start up this Hadoop cluster. So why did I want to do that? So I had Jack's credit card. And so you know what? That was easy. Seriously, I had Jack's credit card right here. So you cannot have it, by the way, to pay your tuition or something. There's a lot of credit on it. So I went ahead, you would like it, don't you? So I went to Amazon and I swiped it. And I can literally start up 10 machines on the fly in the cloud easy by just one swipe of a credit card. So then my daughter Caitlin comes up to me and says, Daddy, can you take me to soccer? And I said, sure, no problem, because I was like, I don't know how long that's going to take. So I came back from the whole thing, and guess what? 10 minutes later, 10 minutes? Yeah. 30 minutes. 30 minutes later it was done. Isn't that amazing? So I went from 14 days to a swipe of a credit card like virtual drives, and I finished this whole thing in literally 30 minutes. That was awesome. I was like, wow, now this is cool. Okay? So I started tweaking with the parameter of the statistically significant stuff like that. Then I remember I had Jack's credit card on. I was like, holy cow, this is going to kill me. He's going to kill me if I see this. So when I went to check out the bill, it was literally $37. What is it? Yeah, $37? It's like something nothing that basically would have cost more to actually process, than actually just pay for it and be done with it. And that was like, for me, that was like, holy cow, this is big data now, and processing lots of amount of data is attainable to everyone, which is pretty cool. And so I started diving into this big data space, and actually the first thing that the first question that I wanted to ask is actually, what is big data? And I think that's a very important question to answer, because if you talk to the academic folks, they say you are in big data when you meet 3 V's. 3 V's, you have to meet 3 V's. You have to have lots of volume, they have to come at you very, very fast, which is velocity, and the data is so unstructured that it has different varieties. Okay? It's not the typical structure that you see. It's not always the same thing that you see. One time it's going to have 10 fields, the next field is going to have 2 fields, the next one is going to have 100 fields. And it's going to come at you so fast that you're not going to be able to, and it's going to be so big that you cannot go down to Best Buy and buy hard drives to fit it. Okay? So originally my definition of big data was, if you go down to Best Buy and you buy disk drives to hold your data, guess what? You're not in big data space. Okay? Seriously. So then I've seen people go crazy with the V's. Okay? So there's 7 V's. Okay, you know what? Okay, let's calm down, everybody. Okay, we're going to stick with this. We're going to stick with the 3 V's. So actually, this is the formal academic definition of big data. You have volume, you have velocity, and you have variety. If you have a lot of these things together, you're typically sitting in one of those areas in those space, you are in big data space. And that's basically what happens to Twitter and the Facebook. If you think about it, there's 1 billion users on Facebook. How does Facebook hold all these messages from this guy to his girlfriend, yeah, I love you, and then all these little chit-chats and stuff like that, messages? Or how does Twitter, during the spring uprising, does not go down when it's holding and directing people to different places and stuff like that? Okay? They do things totally differently than the traditional means, actually. Okay? And so what they end up doing, they end up using different techniques, which is like what we call NoSQL. I'm sure you heard of NoSQL databases. If you haven't heard it, guess what? We should learn about it. And typically people think, well, when you say NoSQL, that means I'm getting away from SQL. No, actually it means not only SQL. And we're going to talk about it. Anybody knows what SQL is? Structured query language? If you haven't heard about it, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah, start learning a little bit, because this is one of the languages that you're going to be able to talk to big data with. Okay? It's the SQL interface. Then, of course, the way to store data was this unstructured way, which is JSON, which is the JavaScript notation. You say to me, but wait a minute, also, you're saying JavaScripting, that means I'm going to be doing web interfaces and web design and stuff like that? No, actually, it's a way of storing data. And what they've done is they've added it to make it more geospatial enabled. And if you look at it, it's this kind of weird structure here, this GeoJSON structure, that enables me to have the V in the big data, because everything has this unstructuredness about it. Remember, in big data, things are not totally beautifully structured. They have totally different variety. And one way of expressing that variety is in GeoJSON, is in this weird structure in here. Okay? And then you can store points, lines, and polygons, like the typical stuff that we deal with every single day with in these formats in here. Okay? But these guys when they deal with big data, they deal with these key value stores. Okay? And they know how to store key value stores very well. They can store billions of these records, by the way. They store billions of these records in these key value stores. And that creates a problem. So they hashed out something very interesting, they call it geohash. And a geohash is a way, again, to break up your space into little quads like that. And what they do is they assign a little bit value to each one of them. And as they break down the space, they put up little more little bits in each one of them. And these techniques like that we can spatially index massive amount of data, is using this geohash, which is pretty cool, because guess what? You can do a quick polygon search, and you can quickly nail down automatically the area of interest by just looking up at these little bits of information that give very, very quickly. And so then you have to be worrying about boundary condition, which is PhDs have been written about this kind of little boundary condition, by the way. Seriously, which is amazing. Then these guys looked up something that was built back in the 1800s. Some things that are old and new again. And these are called space-filling curves, by the way. And basically what it does, it takes n-dimensional data and turn it into one dimension. You're telling me how can they do that? And actually it's this technique in here, where you can take up space, and you can come up with these curves. Basically, think about it. You can put a pen down, and depending on the level of granularity, that pen can traverse that whole space without lifting it back. Is that cool? If you think about it, take it like the second one, which is easy. I can traverse that space without lifting my pen. That gives us single dimensionality that I need. And by doing that, you can turn multi-dimension into single dimension. That is pretty cool. That is very cool. Things that were old now are new again. And this is that technique here. These techniques here is what we use in big data to turn hyperdimension. This is by the way just as available for 2-dimension. This is available for multi-dimension. I can take now 3, 4 hyperdimension and turn them into single dimension and store them. That's what a lot of people actually do in big data, especially with geospatial, is this technique in here, is space filling, which is awesome. And so if you wonder how do they store massive amount of data, it's very simple. They space fill the curve, turn it into single dimension, and store everything sequentially, which is awesome. So a lot of these guys, like MongoDB, if you heard it, I don't know if you heard about it, but if you heard about these new stacks that everybody's building right now, they use a lot of these engines, like the Mongo and the Couch and the Elasticsearches. All of these guys have built-in native geospatial in them, and they use the previous techniques that they have, or even better ones, like what like Accumulo or HBase or what's the other one? I forgot. It's called Presto. They all use these kind of techniques to query the data. Actually, if you want to learn more about it and see it in action in HBase, this book here on the right-hand side is pretty awesome, called HBase in Action, and it's using that technique to show how you can query massive amount of data and display it in here. So again, what's old is new again. You know, when my son fights with me, says, Dad, why are you learning geometry or algebra or stuff like that? These are the foundations, by the way, that you will learn when you're later on, you know, that you're going to be applying real life and reality to be able to help you to solve a lot of these questions in here, which is pretty cool. Okay, so what they've done is they've done this again. So you've seen this picture before, right? You've seen this picture before. So what's old again is back new again. In the middle now is all the big data stored, but now what they've done is they separated it before, and so so what's old is brand new again, and it's exactly what we're doing right now. And that middle tier is that new spatial data engine that's coming in, right? Which is pretty cool. Yeah. So in the old days, you know, when they want to pull something, they would bring in what's his name? They would bring in an ox. Well, guess what? They will not build a bigger ox to pull a cart. What they do is they put multiple oxes together, right? Okay, so if you want to pull something, you know, you bring an ox, and if the ox cannot pull it, guess what? You bring another ox. You don't build a bigger ox because guess what? The ox can only get big, can only get so much big, you know. But if you put multiple oxes together, guess what? You can pull lots of load together. Okay, and that is the analogy here that this other animal comes in. So remember this animal I talked to you about? Okay, called Hadoop. Okay, I'm sure if every time somebody talks to you about big data, if somebody talks about big data, always they mention the word Hadoop. Okay, and it's because of that new animal. So instead of multiple oxes, actually it's now multiple elephants that are going to come in. And actually, yeah, it's very interesting. And that is the mascot. And you say, well, why is it an elephant? Actually, it's actually a very interesting story. Actually, it doesn't mean anything, the word Hadoop, by the way. The word Hadoop is actually nothing but a kid's child toy who had a little stuffed elephant, okay, yellow stuffed elephant that he named Hadoop. And the author of the project, who was working late on the project, you know, called Duck Cutting, did not know what he wanted to call this big data project that he was working on. So guess what? He called it Hadoop after his son's little toy. So if you ask Doug, where is Hadoop right now? It's his little stock grower stuffed in there because his son now totally outgrew it. But that's where the word Hadoop came from. It doesn't mean anything. It's just a kid's name that it's a kid's toy that is actually come along, which is pretty cool. But what it is, it's actually nothing but a library, okay, to be able to do to store massive amount of data. I'm talking about terabytes. I mean, when the Facebooks and the Twitters and all these social media that you deal with, by the way, store all that information, guess where they store them? In Hadoop. And you can store this petabyte of data, guess what? On cheap and expensive hardware. When I built my first Hadoop cluster here at TSRI, guess what I did? I went down to the warehouse and I literally rated it for the existing discarded hardware that they have. They had it, says, you know what? I don't need these things. These are not deemed to be used. I'm gonna put them down in the warehouse. So I just went to the warehouse, got like 24 machines, stacked them all up together, and created my first Hadoop cluster. And I put 6 terabytes of data on it. It's kind of funny, huh? And then the best part is, so I was running this job, and what's amazing, some idiot trips on my wire and takes out 8 of my 24 nodes. Did I freak out? No, and you're going to see why in a little bit. Is that amazing? And so the cheaper, the better, and why? Because I can buy multiple of these. So rather than me growing vertical, okay, and getting expensive machines that go vertical, I'll go horizontal and cheap and expensive hardware and go and go and go and go by. Is that amazing? I want to show you something actually. Okay, you guys are going to freak out, but this is pretty slick. This is what this is. This is 1 terabyte. Is that amazing? This is 1 terabyte. So imagine if I fill up this room here with one of those. Can you imagine? You see how I can store the whole planet of information? Okay, you can visualize this, right? Okay, is that amazing? So now you're telling me how can you do it? And you Mansoor, you're so smart? No, I'm not so smart. It's because I'm taking advantage of real stuff that people are doing, and I'm just cannibalizing them, putting them together. Is that amazing? Yeah, I mean, that's pretty slick. That's 1 terabyte. So I put 6 of these together. And I can hold Rotterdam, all the ship movement in and out of the harbor of Rotterdam for 1 year. I just have to put a stack of this, 6 like that. You guys can do that too. Is that amazing? And one of the ways to deal with these things is this guy named Hadoop takes care of that kind of stuff. So typically what you have is you have these little inexpensive hardware down below. And then rather than dealing with the hardware failure, what we deal is the hardware failure is handled by this thing called HDFS, which is the middle tier, which is the top tier on top of it, that take care of hardware failure by software. Okay? So no more, if there's anything down below that failed, guess what the software is going to take care of it. On top of that, is because of all these machines sitting together, okay, all networked together, rather than dealing with them individually, you have this abstract layer on top of it called yarn that looks at them as all one single machine. So when I took my 24 machines and put them together, I'm not looking at them as individual machines. I'm looking at them as this one big giant machine now that has 24 cores on it. So people ask me, how do you get 24 cores? How do you get, my dinky Mac here has only 8 cores. How do I get like 140 cores? Well, guess what? It's because of that yarn. I take all these things and virtually make them one machine. So now, 6 of these, 6 terabyte, 24 machines, I have 140 cores. You're telling me you cannot do that in your basement? Well, maybe not your basement, somebody else's basement, but you know what I mean. You can do that, okay? And then of course there's a project on top of it called MapReduce. We're going to talk about that a little bit. So there's several other projects in the zoo that comes in, like Avro and let me see, Hive and Pig and actually, yeah, it's all these big name, animals name, because they call that the zoo Bible. So every time somebody talks about the zoo, the Hadoop ecosystem, they call it the zoo is because it's made up of all these projects with animals names and impalas and sharks and pretty cool stuff that you can come up with. Okay? So HDFS is the literally the file system that's making everything attainable for everyone. You can store on that terabyte of data. And why is that? It's because every single piece of information you store is stored 3 times on 3 separate machines. Is that cool? And takes care of all that for you. And if one machine fails, no problem. There's 2 other places that has it, so you can pick it up, which is pretty neat. And if one, again, the failure is happening at the software level, not at the hardware level. Okay? At Google, by the way, there's an intern whose job is to go out and swap disk drives. Actually, not true. But if I had an intern, which I usually have, guess what one of their jobs during the summertime? Dude, go swap one of my disk drives that have failed on me. And guess what? Everything is still working. Because that's what we use. Just swap disk drives. Because on a 1,000-node cluster, the disk drive is going to fail every single day. Now, you automate it, but guess what? It happens. But you move on with it, which is pretty cool. Now the data is so big, so typically what you do right now, like you open up your Excel spreadsheet. What do you do when you open up your Excel spreadsheet? You load the Excel spreadsheet into the Excel program, right? And then you do some of your calculation and then you send it down back, right? That's typically what happens. Or you open up your shapefile and map, your map, right? Okay, say yes, please. No, not yet? They don't use Huh? Depends on the students? Okay, thank you. Depends on the class. Okay, you brought in a shapefile, you brought process, then you put it down. That's fine if you have, a couple of megabytes and stuff like that. But what if you have terabytes of data? You cannot bring in terabytes in. So what you have to do now is you have to take the program and send it to the data. See? Now that is the paradigm shift, ladies and gentlemen. You don't bring data to program. You take a program and you send it to data. That is now you're in the big data space. You're like, whoa. Okay? That paradigm, ladies and gentlemen, is called MapReduce. This is, by the way, has been around since 1968, by the way. Okay? It's been around for a long time. Google made it very, very popular because they were doing all their analytics. When they were page ranking data, okay, they were using this paradigm called MapReduce. When you go to Google and it lists out what pages need to show up first, a couple of years ago, we was using that algorithm to do that for you, by the way. And they were doing it on thousands and thousands of machines for you every single day. And basically, again, you program it and you send it out using this paradigm called MapReducing. And again, the idea here, what it does, it takes a program and it sends it to each data in parallel. So these data nodes that were holding terabyte of data, they take the program and send it down to each one of them, and that's how you get distribution, that's how you get parallelism going on. And that's how all these thousands of machines are operating for you in parallel. Pretty cool, isn't it? Okay? And by the way, again, you don't have to do all that stuff. But MapReduce is hard. I mean, you have to think distributed parallel shared mapping, which is kind of really, really painful. And the boys and girls at Facebook, by the way, they say, you know what? I cannot teach a guy that's taking the guy or girl that's coming out of college how to write MapReduce job. How about we teach them not to program, because they're very, very smart people, but they know one language very well, which is called SQL. Okay? And so they invented this project called Hive, which enables now their analysts to be able to do analytics on massive amount of data without having to do MapReduce job. And they've done it with this thing called SQL. So now if you understand SQL, remember I told you you have to learn SQL? Because it's the framework input to access to all the data. It says, you know what if we let the analyst write SQL, and we, because we are very smart, we turn it into distributed parallel shared nothing for them. So now suddenly, we democratize big data. Is that cool? So big data now is accessible to anybody because they just have to type select star from table where some condition, which everybody understands how to do. And suddenly this thing can run on multiple machines and can give them the answer. Pretty cool, huh? And so the Facebook folks, because of their good generosity, open source the project, and it's called Apache Hive, and that's what you're looking at, Apache Hive project. And if you know SQL, some of you know SQL, you literally create tables, like literally, you create a table here, what did I call it? See, what's that? Trips? Yeah, so you create a table called trips, and it has these fields, and this is the definition. I mean, even if you read it, you can understand what's kind of doing without you having to be a programmer. Is that cool? I mean, you can read that, and it makes sense. It's kind of English, right? It's kind of like English, but it makes sense. I'm creating a table with those definitions, with those fields, and this is where it is located. And so there's other projects that have taken on to that. So Facebook moved on to a project called Presto, and then Caldera folks and created Project Impala because literally they want to, through this mechanism, they're democratizing data access to everybody. Pretty cool. So suddenly everybody can do. And so what about spatial? Right? All these things can do queries, but what about geospatial? So we at TSRI, well, we don't want to get caught without this whole thing. Everybody thinks that TSRI, we're like this company that is old and dinosaurs and we don't open source anything and stuff like that. And actually not true. That's what we did at TSRI. We open source a project under Apache license under GitHub. You can go in and clone it, and you can download all the source code for you to be able to do big data, geospatial big data. We capitalized on that, and we gave it out to the community because we, like everybody else, like Facebook, gave up Hive, guess what? We let now the community take and do geospatial on big data using a project called GIS Tools for Hadoop. Pretty cool. I know this was very different for us, and this was a paradigm shift for ESRI. But you know what? One of the things that I love about ESRI is we adapt to the times. And you know what? People are open sourcing project. Okay, they give them away, but there are certain things that need to be given up. You know what? We'll give them out. Pretty cool. So the GIS Tools for Hadoop takes advantage of storing big data, geospatial big data, in the GeoJSON format. Remember I showed you that GeoJSON format where you can store points, lines, and polygons? And we created Hive queries, so now using SQL, you can query data very effectively. And there's a bunch of geoprocessing, if you're familiar with our platform, to be able to do massive analytics, like spatial joins, and heat maps, and hotspot analysis, and proximity, and buffer, and all these things that you wanted to do. But rather than doing them on 10,000 records, now you can do them on millions and billions of records. So I was at the Federal User Conference last week, and we did a spatial join on 1 billion record to 1 billion record. Okay? Basically, the idea is the following. There's a bunch of transactions happening in the world between one bank and another one, but you know what? You have to be reported if it's beyond $10,000, right? Well, you don't, well, if you know that, you know. So bad guys, quote unquote, want to send money from one place to another one. Let's say he has $20,000. Well, you cannot send them $20,000 from one bank to the other one, because guess what? That will get reported. So what bad guy does, he takes out that $20,000, split them up into 5 piles of $4,000. And guess what he does? He goes out 1 hour around to all the banks around him, and he sends $4,000, $4,000, $4,000. Guess what? They're not reported because the government is only looking for an amount of money greater than $10,000. So the $4,000, guess what? We still in it and everything is fine. But if I do a spatial join where I look up, find me all people that have sent to the same location small little amount of money within a certain amount of distance and a certain amount of time, bingo. There's a pattern of behavior that I can pull out. And that's exactly what we did. So we fed this whole system with 1 billion random transactions, and then I literally sprinkled little bad guy behavior in there, and then I gave it to my friend Suzanne. Suzanne used spatial temporal join to quickly look to 50 minutes later, run this whole thing, and pull out the needle out of the haystack. So she literally burned down the haystack, and all the needles showed up. Is that pretty cool? And this is the kind of stuff that we deal with, which is pretty neat. Okay? And so this, one of the tools is this guy here, right? This GIS tools for that. She used that for that, which is pretty cool. So we ended up using the geometry library to be able to do these massive spatial joints, and it's all built into it, which is pretty. I like it. I know, maybe I'm jaded to it, but it's the fact that we can do 1 billion. That was our benchmark. That was pretty under an hour, by the way, too. And somebody was asking me how big the cluster. I had a 24-node cluster that was holding that, and yeah, and you can just I call them PhD systems, push VFW toolboxes that you just push, and they just do stuff for you, which is awesome. Okay? And so I want to talk to you a little bit about what else we can do here with this API. We eat our own dog food at ESRI, believe it or not. Okay? No, I'm very serious. Because we service 5.7 billion maps every month to our community. And one of the things that we do is we have all these geographic layers that we have to service out. We have about 17 geographic layers that we service out. And we buy data from providers to service out our community. So when Jack is very rich, not because he has a lot of money, it's because he likes to hold on to his money. I didn't say that out loud. That was a little thought. But no, what I mean by that is the following. Jack does not want to go spend money on places where people are not interested in receiving data. So every month they get reports on where are people consuming data. So when he wants to go buy data, he needs to know exactly where to go buy data. So out of those 5.7 billion records, where are people consuming data from? Because these are the areas that I want to make sure that I'm staying on top of them, and I want to buy those updates because these are people are looking at. So this is a heat map with a statistical significance of where people are looking for data in the month of February in 2014. And actually it turned out to be very interesting. If you look at the map very closely, there were very hot areas in the Netherlands and in England in the Open Survey, and turned out to be actually correct because the month before, which is January, the Open Survey updated that data, and the Dutch cadastral in the Netherlands updated that data. And that reflected as truly heat maps on the map, which is pretty cool. So if we want to buy data, we need to buy these are the areas that we need to concentrate on, which is pretty cool. Is that neat? This is another interesting scenario here when we looked it up. So when the meteor struck through came through the atmosphere in Russia, remember that a couple of years ago? Remember when the atmosphere came up? Okay? People flocked to see on the internet where things are happening. And people thought, oh, I can go to the internet and Google Map or ESI maps and I can see the meteor. I don't know what they're thinking. A different topic of conversation. But what we saw is we saw an update on the data. Okay? And you can see that the meteor came from the top right, from the top left all the way to the top right, and then from the bottom right, and you can see that striking in here. Is that cool? And we can pick it up. And so we looked at that, and actually it turned out there was something very interesting. It turned out that actually this is not a lot of people in there. We homed in actually on an IP, on an internet address, and it turned out that actually somebody was coming and stealing our data. Quote unquote, you're supposed to be navigating through the data in a random fashion. But actually, this person came in and started scraping up data because what they wanted to do is they want to pull this information out and put it on their own thing for our own system. And it's a violation of our terms of use, by the way. Isn't that cool? Yeah? So we were able to take behavior, statistical behavior, using geostatistics by now preventing people from doing bad things. Is that cool? So this was a representation of that. Telco. Use massively because what they do is they want to be able to receive all your CDRs, your call data records. When you call here, by the way, okay, all this is being tracked by. I'm sure you already all know all that. But what they want to know, one of the things that they wanted to know is they want to know where drop calls are happening. So to every tower that they have the amount of calls that are happening to it. But also they tag with every record the drop calls that are happening. So what we do is we map these and we create any statistically significant trending of the drop calls. Because if I want to dispatch a crews to go work on that tower because it's dropping a lot of phone calls, I need to make sure that things are happening statistically significant. Because I have a lot of calls that are happening, I have very few resources, I want to allocate them correctly. So this way of looking at data gives me statistically significant trend. Also, what they do is they map it to social media on top of it. So wait a minute, why is there a lot of dropouts that are happening in here? Do we not have enough towers? Is there a Elena Del Rey, what's his name, concert happening next to it and everybody's tweeting and stuff like that? Maybe I need to boost up another thing in there? These are the things that we help them with. Hey, I overlay it with weather. Is there a storm happening that's affecting that? So all these layers of information stacked up on top of each other can give me insight and what we call actionable geo-information on making things happen and giving me insight into what I'm looking for. Is that pretty cool? I think that's pretty neat. Okay? So that will do a lot of that stuff, overlay with data. And then now, I'm sure you heard about it, actually a big event that happened last week. What was the big event with Google, with the Google cars? First time, it was the fault of the Google Map car that hit the bus. Right? Why? Because now cars are talking to each other, cars are very smart, and guess what? They essentially know what's happening. I believe it's going to come in the future, so I'm alive when I'm still alive. But guess what? I'm not going to be driving anymore. It's going to become illegal for a human to drive. Cars are going to be driving by themselves. Right? I deeply believe that that's going to happen. Okay? I mean, I don't need the car. I just need it to go from here to the office, and when I'm done, let it go pick up somebody else. This is going to happen, I believe, in our lifetimes with Bible. Okay? And what's going to make all these things talk to each other is big data, and all these things communicating with each other. And so all the big automotive companies are heavily investing in that. And you know the amount of information that this is generating? Talk about volume, velocity, and variety. These guys. Okay? These guys. And the worst, insurance as you drive. This is happening, ladies and gentlemen. Insurance as you drive. No more, you're a 25-year-old, your premium gonna be so much, and I'm 50, my premium is different. I could be a ding-dong driver, and I can stop and screech and turn and accelerate beyond the speed limit. Guess what? They're gonna be able to track me down, and my insurance premium are gonna be based on how I drive, not who I am. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? It's already happening. If you talk to Progressive, stuff like that, they put this little dinky device down there in your car, and it will track all your movements, because you let them, by the way. You let them for that little premium that they're going to give you, but they will. But you know what? You're a good driver. Your premiums are going to go down. But you know what? You accelerate too much. You stop too quickly. You go beyond the speed limit. You're going to get dinged. So, but they tell you, hey, something happens to you, like a non-stop. You push it, I know exactly where you are. So which way you're going to be? Pick your poison, ladies and gentlemen. Observations. A lot of observations. You can imagine tracking bad guys when they're happening. What's the statistically significant that UBL is right there? That's all big data. I'm going to stop on that one. I'm going to move on to one of my favorite topics is actually the harbor of Rotterdam, where actually this is a presentation that we did. And actually, remember my definition of big data, ladies and gentlemen, what did I say? It is when the traditional methods are failing. It's not volume, velocity, variety. Actually, at the harbor, ladies and gentlemen, it was not, the data was not very big. It was not coming very fast. It was not unstructured. However, they had to meet an SLA to hold all their data for 5 years, which is about 6 terabytes. Okay? They had to do it by a particular certain date. Now, when they realized this in November, and they had to make it happen in January. So they had 2 months to meet the SLA, service level agreement. So they went to the traditional database vendor and they said, hey, Mr. Vendor, we have an SLA to meet that we need to hold all the data for 5 years online in which we can access it. Vendor turned around and said to them, when do you need to do this by? He says, oh, we need to do it by January. He says, no problem, Mr. Rotterdam, Harbor of Rotterdam. We can do that, but you have to pay us X million dollars to do that. Huh? Wait a minute, we're out of money, you're taking advantage of us, this does not make sense. We need a different way. And this is where we brought in our friend Hadoop to be able to do that application for them. So again, it was not volume, velocity, variety in this particular case, which the vendor, the traditional vendor could do, but it was because it was failing the traditional way that we had to need to look at a totally different way to solve that problem, and it thus bring in a big data solution. Make sense? So this was an economic issue, if you think about it. It was nothing to do with volume, velocity, and variety. Is that cool? And so we brought in, and we went up, I flew down to Rotterdam in November. We installed, literally, dusted off, just like I did before. I literally dusted off 6 machines, put them in a cluster, and bulk loaded the data, and we were up and running in 2 weeks. Came home for Thanksgiving with my family, went back after Thanksgiving, right before Christmas we were done, we celebrated, we did the funky called Medina, and then, and then we came back, and then boom, Russia, I know, that was kind of funny. And so, we built actually a web-based application for them where everything was accessible in 3 clicks, which was pretty awesome. And then you just have to, just PhD, push here dummy or push here buttons. Where you can use that, but give credit where credit is due. Okay, for PhD. Come on, really? Is this kind of second job? Come on. Okay, and you can just basically navigate through that whole thing and see some interesting patterns happening in the data, which is pretty cool, and you can drill down and pick any information you want out of it. And they used it for all kind of, the Harbor Master was using it for capacity planning, for tracking all kind of environmental issues and stuff like that. So everything was good. So I was invited to go to the Harbor Master, and literally, that was 2014. Yeah, 2014 when I did that. And literally I walked into the Harbor Master, and on the wall is a digital map, and And guess what he has on the grease pen? He has outline area of interest. I mean, I see this all the time. You know, a digital map, and the guy literally drew with a grease pen on areas. I'm like, really? Seriously? Like, don't you know there's a system called GIS that can do this poop for you? Sorry for the word GIS, you know? They can do this stuff for you that you can just do this thing more efficiently. So I asked him, what is this? He says, these are my dredging prioritization area. I'm like, what do you mean by that? He says, well, you know what? Every day the harbor, its sediments get thrown into the harbor every single day. And what we have to do is we have to go and dredge these things out because boats, when they come into the harbor, they scrape the bottom of the harbor, and that's kind of nasty for them. So we have to prioritize where those dredging are happening. And I'm like, you know, we can do that for you. He's like, yeah, but that's billions of records coming in. I'm like, what do you mean? He says, we sound the harbor at 1 meter resolution, okay? Every single day. You know how much data that's coming in Mansour? I'm like, no problem. I said, you see what my rolling arms because I'm Lebanese, you know? He says, no problem, we can take it that. So we brought in all the data into our front Hadoop, and literally this is what we had. We had the depth at every location, right? And I know every boat where it is located. And also I have one little thing which is very important. From every GPS location that the boat is spitting out, it's giving me the draft, you know? So if I subtract the draft of the boat minus the depth that I know at every single location, I can calculate delta, which is the difference. And so by that, I can come up with these beautiful maps that tell me exactly where boats are scraping down to the bottom, the harbor, and I come up with this beautiful hexagonal graph to tell me exactly these are your prioritization area rather than grease mapping. Very cool, huh? What does that mean? Okay, talk about actionable geospatial information. Okay? Instead of just doing it the old way and taking massive amount of data, reducing it, no pun intended, to this beautiful, expressive map in such a way now I can take this to my harbor master and say, this is what you need to do, and he can just push a button and those maps are produced from massive amount of data turn out to this beautiful, expressive map. Okay? Talk about GIS in action, okay? Or big data GIS in action, which is pretty cool. And so one of the things that we see a lot is taxis, and Uber actually is one of them. Uber is building their own mapping system because now they have so much data, they can build their own Google Maps. Can you believe it? Actually, they're doing that right now, Uber, because they have so many drivers, they can collect information. And all the cities now, practically every city, has a tracking system for their taxis. They can get all kind of information from their taxi information. And so New York City is the most ubiquitous known project where they've taken taxi data, they give you pickup location, drop-off location, pickup time, drop-off time, trip distance, trip time, how much tip they give, and all that stuff. Can you imagine how much information you can come up with all that stuff? I can come up with some very insightful information in that one. Okay? For example, me as a I have a taxi setup, and I have a bunch of trucks, not trucks, I have a bunch of vans that I belong to. Guess what? I need to know exactly on what time, what day, I need to send where my trucks to service the community. So I can ask the system, okay, plow through 6 months of data, and tell me between 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock, where are 3 passengers or more pickup? Because me, I need to send my vans to those locations because these are where people are going to be happy. So I'm not going to send them downtown Manhattan because that's not make sense, but I need to send them to Midtown, right next to Penn Station, because these are where they're going to pick up the most. So me as a business person, these are the geospatial information that I need to be able to get insight. Is that cool? Okay. So let's take, for example, this one. I'm picking up from Penn Station, right? Where are the drop-off locations? If I take the drop-off location, which is the middle, there's a bunch of dots on the map. It would not make sense. Actually, I see that a lot, dots on the map. But if I turn that into a hotspot analysis, now I'm not talking heat map, ladies and gentlemen. For me, Geospatial, there's a difference between a heat map, which is what columns spinning out of just location with lots of points in there, versus a statistically significant hotspot, which is basically telling me where things are more different than the other. Okay? And I'll give you confidence with each one of those locations. I can see that between 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock from Penn Station, the most statistically significant drop-offs are by the UN. So I can come up with a bus route that complements my traditional bus route that will go from that location to that location to complement my traditional bus route. And this is what we're doing in Singapore, this is what we're doing in a lot of other places where we're not adjusting the bus routes, but we're augmenting the traditional bus route with explicit location to location to give us better, to be better citizens, to be better servicing our citizens. Isn't that cool? So then I will have that bus route only between 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock on a Monday, for example. And I can reallocate my bus some other time for other locations. And this is where, again, I keep going back to statistically significant and geospatial and what they call geo-actionable information that really can come in. And all that big data is plowing through all this thing and giving you those beautiful geo-insight. Pretty cool, huh? Pretty. And one of my favorite ones here, I know we're running a little bit short on time, something we call dynamic segmentation. We do that all the time. This is a geospatial scenario that highways, pipelines, people do that. By the way, I mean, as you notice here, I'm literally all over the map. Okay? I talked about automotive, I talked about, no pun intended. I talked about automotive, I talked about intelligence, I talked about harbors, I talked about what else? Transportation. I mean, again, electrical department, water and sewage, highways. Okay? All of these things can come in. And this one is a beautiful example that really kills people. For example, this is what we call, dynamic segmentation 101. Basically, what you have is you have a line segment, which is a street segment. Okay, let's say highway 10 here, right? Okay, you have the highway 10 as itself. What they do is they break it up into little small areas, and every small area, they tell me what events are happening on it. For example, what kind of event is? It says, oh, by the way, there is the lane count here at that location on that segment is 4 lanes. And oh, by the way, on that 4-lane segment is that type of asphalt. And oh, by the way, that asphalt was rebuilt on that time. Oh, by the way, there is a particular clearing of it from an overpass that is that distance. They break up the whole United States highway is broken down every year into 10 million events, by the way. And now what they have to do is they have to hold this thing for 10 years. And that's just the United States highway, the primary highway. Okay? And that is massive amount of data that the federal government has to keep up and have to now, which is the worst thing, they have to query. Hey, I'm looking for a particular street with that type of asphalt that was serviced on that day, and by the way, has a clearing for that. Tell me all that and search it for the whole United States. That's basically what dynamic segmentation is. And so that's a problem for them to do. And so what we end up doing is we end up taking data from traditional views and we store it in this unstructured data format. Because guess what? The segments can have multiple attributes. Talk about variety of data. A segment might have 10 attributes, another segment might have hundreds of attributes. Okay? So this dynamic variety of data, that's where big data comes in. Then there's this new animal in the zoo called Spark that is coming in that can do this dynamic segmentation in parallel on multiple machines all at once. Kind of like that I do, where you can take the data, break it up into multiple machines, do it all in parallel, and bring it back in again. And then finally, we use Pi, of course, because that's what I'm paying for my children to go to school in Atlanta and it's not both ways. And I know that only you you get a gold star, buddy. Thank you. All of you fail. F. Okay? And so you can tie up all together to be able to really make sense out of it. Now, what's so exciting about the whole thing is the following. To run a data center, it costs a lot of money. You know what costs actually a lot of money? You know what it is? It's actually keeping it cool. Keeping it cool is actually what costs a poop load of money. Sorry for the word money. Okay? But that's what actually costs a lot of money is that. So what we thought about is, you know what? There's this wonderful company called Nerdalas that we teamed up with to work on this project. We said, you know what? What if we take the data center and we put it in the homes? And rather than spending the heat to cool it off, why don't we use the heat to heat up the house? Is that neat? So now we have these heaters that are actually computers that are doing massive big data analytics, okay? that are sending the jobs to each one of them. Remember I told you about the job is sent out to all these machines? Okay? Well, what if the job is sitting in what if the machine is a heater itself, and you're sending this big data to do this dynamic segmentation, and somebody's taking a bath and having hot water by you running a dynamic segmentation process. Is that cool? Okay. And then, so we send out these jobs to all of these guys. We do all kind of analytics, all a bunch of heaters all over the world, okay? And then we come aggregate back the answer. You know what I mean? They're called responsible. We call carbon neutral activities. Okay? Pretty nifty. So we end up using this thing called Docker to be able to push out all the data in our GIS and Python and push out all these things. It was a very, very, very cool project that we're doing that. And of course, everything is pushed up to our GIS, and somebody can ask any simple question. We plow through all this data, and we give them the answer that they need in these beautiful, expressive manner. Pretty cool, huh? I thought you would like that. Okay. By the way, I have a couple more minutes. By the way, you can get started, all of you, with big data. A lot of the big data vendors, like Hortonworks and Cloudera, create sandboxes, by the way. So you do not have to have a terabyte of data or anything like that. On your little PCs, you can download those sandboxes. And okay, you're not holding 6 terabytes of data, but this one is just good enough for you guys to get started. So download one of those things, or the Hortonworks Quick Start, and you can start doing big data analytics by the way on that. You can download the New York City data, and you can start exploring. Go to my blog and show how to do importing of data, creating the spatial tables, and querying them using the RPI language in here. Okay? And I have a bunch of code. If you want to geek out on me, send me email, try me, call me up, and you can do some really, really cool, like the analytics that I showed you here. Okay? And of course, everything has. What's that? You can do Python if you want. Pick your poison. And then don't forget, everything has to be statistically significant. That's the most important thing. Yes, don't freak out about the math. By the way, moral of the lesson, you have to understand this. Kids, stay in school. Okay? This, you have to understand what this, not just you write up the formula, blah, 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 like a parakeet. You have to understand what this means. Okay? It's a pop quiz. Okay? Somebody has to send you what this means. Okay? That's very, very important. Stay in school, learn what this means so that you can do big data analytics by the way. Okay? And so to close, we were in this world, by the way. But we were in a, we're doing batch. We started doing a little bit of exploration, and now we have this dashboard. But where we're really going, ladies and gentlemen, is this. You're going to be seeing predictive intelligence system. We're talking about machine learning. You've heard about deep learning. I'm sure if you listen to Google blogs, they talk about deep dreams. Have you seen those? Have you heard about these deep dreams? Google it, okay? And you'd see Google now and Facebooks and stuff like that are starting to do big AI, artificial intelligence stuff. And why they can do that stuff is because now they know how to hold and process massive amount of data, that now they can learn from it a lot of things. And this is actually what I'm going through right now. That's my 6th reincarnation at the SRI, is I've been doing deep learning and machine learning for quite some time, but now with the ubiquity of this information and being able to process massive amount of information on cheap and expensive hardware is enabling me to happen. We're going to see a lot of in-memory computing because, again, things are becoming cheaper. The entry to that is going to go. GPU. No more this thing for graphics only. By the way, if you have kids and you have the Xboxes can do some amazing stuff. That's why we don't let it out to China and to North Korea and stuff like that. And some very smart kids are doing some very cool stuff with that. Okay? Actually, I have a little dinky GPU in my room that I'm going to be fooling around to do deep learning analytics on. So that's where I think the geo machine learning is the next thing that's going to happen. And we're going to be starting to do that a lot. Actually, when I come next year, if God is willing, I'll show you some of these new things that we've been fooling around, machine learning, artificial intelligence. So my name is Mansour. Follow me on Twitter Yes, sir.
Have you used any of this big data and mapping within medical field?
No, I don't do anything with medical because Jack only pays me geospatial, but actually not true. We did a lot of technical stuff when it was with writing and stuff like that. In that, image or stuff like that. We do a lot of, we work a lot very closely with Gates Foundation, and stuff like that. And we received a lot of, like when we went out, when they did the global tracking, by the way, I don't know if that was.
No. It was all environmental.
Oh, environmental.
So basically, wherever you live,
Yeah.
if you can actually see exactly
Oh,
what
yeah.
kinds of things that affect your body throughout the United States.
Of course, I mean, it's kind of crazy, this kind of stuff that happens. And so we were tracking, like the polio vaccinators, we were tracking them, and we can see a lot of things that were happening, where things can go, the networks that they were creating. The other one that is a big, that you're going to be hearing a lot about, ladies and gentlemen, is graph databases, because everything is connected. And for us, we think geospatial, we know this, but a lot of people do not know this, that everything is connected geospatially, or like the gentleman was talking about here, you know, how, where you are, where you go, how it's all related to your health. Let's see what happened in Flint and stuff like that. Now, right now, the worst one is the Zika virus, you know, which is now, I can travel to Africa, and I can bring it back with where I was and stuff like that. This is very, very scary. And these kind of things, this is where the machine learning is starting to pick up on these patterns. And basically, with the words of Don Rumsfeld, everybody was laughing at him when he said that. You know, I need to know, I need to, what was it? The unknown unknowns. I need to know what I don't know that I don't know. I know it's kind of crazy, but if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. The unknown unknowns. There are things that we know. There are things that we know that we don't know. And things there that we don't know that we don't know. I know it's kind of crazy, but think about it a little bit. And that is where I'm going with my big data geoanalytics and machine learning and stuff like that, is to go to that next level, is to detect these patterns. I know. Can I freak you out? Okay, here we go. I take your cell phones, and I don't need to know who you are. Okay? And I keep track of 6 months of between, let's say, 9 p.m. and 3 a.m. Okay? I can, if I collect 6 months of data on you, and I put in demographic analytics, guess what? I know exactly you're, for example, white female, that you are so much, and blah, blah, blah. I take your phone calls between 9 p.m. and 5 p.m. Guess what? This is when you work. Talk about tracking. Now I know where you are, where you live. I know where you work, I know where you live. I can come up with a route that you most probably are taking every single day. I can sell that to advertisers as you walk by that thing, and I'm going to pop up a deodorant advertisement right by the billboard that you passed by. Freaky? Guess what? It's happening. And all subliminal. We did not know. You know that Times Square, they know what ads to put up on the wall based on the tweets and people that they're doing, that they're tweeting right in there in that area. They know the demographics, and they'll put up the correct ad based on who's in the square at that time. I know. Freaky, isn't it? Okay, go away now.
You spent a lot of time telling us today about the limitations don't exist, the computational limitations don't exist. So what is the big challenge for big data going forward?
Yeah, so for me actually right now, it's actually what keeps me up and gets me excited is actually how to take my existing algorithm that was serial and turn them into distributed parallel. So that's one thing that keeps me excited at night and stuff like that. The other thing right now is it's solving some big problem, you know, like really put this whole thing to good use, because you can really make this bad use if you want. So what are the limits? I haven't. It's lack of imagination. There's lack of imagination. That's your limit, because now what I see you can do this kind of stuff. You talked to me 5 years ago, you tell me that I can process 1 billion record by 1 billion, I could not even fathom it. Okay? And because I lack the imagination to it, except when I ran into this kid, to my friend at MIT, and because there's other people that have that imagination, that thought of what if, okay? And that were not bounded by the traditional means. And And so that's what it is. I think it's lack of imagination. Just thinking outside the box. I know it's kind of crazy, but
Well, I think you've laid the challenge out for the students here.
yeah.
So, that's good.
So think differently, ladies and gentlemen. Think outside the box. Don't think that you're limited because of because of the traditional means. Again, remember, my definition of big data is, and it can be applied to anything, is when the traditional means are failing. It had nothing to do with the academic evolving velocity and variety. It's just when the traditional means are failing, and you need a different way, and you need to get out of that box, think differently to be able to do that. That's it. It's very simple. I challenge you on that one. Okay? Fruitful thought.
Join me again in extending a very warm applause to our speaker tonight. I had the pleasure of listening to Mansour in August last year, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, and it left me with, I'd say, 2, 3, 5 years worth of thinking to do. Today has added even more to that. And it kind of saddens me that when I was back in school, somebody told me learn SQL, didn't pay much attention to it. I should have probably have some learning to do as much as anybody else here. I do want to extend my sincere thanks to all of you for being here tonight. It's because of you that keeps us motivated to put these events together. Other things, other priorities, it means a lot that you're here tonight. This completes, if you may, as Marco was speaking, I was making some connections back to our last speaker, Dr. Tom Fisher, who was talking about on-demand economy and the way that things are headed from an economic perspective, trying to make connections back to the design of cities in the future. I invite you to join us for our last and concluding speaker event this academic year, when we are going to feature Dr. Atsushi Nara he's a geographer from San Diego State, and he's doing cutting-edge work on space-time modeling of human movement and predicting the pattern of human behavior from that. So that event again is on the evening of Wednesday, May 25th. I know it's after the conclusion of the semester, but for those of you who are here during the summer, please join us. So with that again, my sincere thanks to all of you for being here tonight. I know it's a cold evening outside. Wishing you a pleasant and warm rest of your evening. Thank you very much.
See you, Dr.
Hey, John. Let's show the skateboard.
Yeah, apparently, so my dad works for this company, and I went to high school with him, and the way he describes it as, I guess, separate right angles. So the diagonal force of the right angle is a square with right through glass, so we go faster. It's cool. Have a good night.